everybody? Okay, good evening. Yeah, good evening. This is the first working group meeting for the Guildhall Square. So I will start with the agenda to share it with you. Yes. So, number one, Chair's opening remarks. This is a long time coming, this meeting, so apologies for the delays. It's beyond my control. Other things have happened. May I say that this is a meeting in public, like a public meeting. If anyone has any questions, members of the public have any questions, then they can be answered at the end. If I have invited a couple of people to attend, market traders and stuff, so if any questions related to them, I'll ask them. I think that's it. So, item number 2, apologies for absence. I don't think there is any. So,
can I make an apology? I need to leave just after 7 o'clock. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay, lovely. Thank you, Councillor Green. Item number 3, to consider and appoint co-optees. So the co-optees currently that I would like to appoint will be Steve Laslick from the Sandwich Community Events Association and Carol Jules, the secretary from the town team. If everyone's happy about proposing a seconder, please.
Yeah, I'll propose that. It's sensible.
And I'll second. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Now that's been done, obviously, can we vote? Oh yeah, sorry, can we vote for that, please? Excellent. That's carried. So on that basis, Jill's not attending tonight, so I have asked Carol to take the minutes for this meeting. Jill has said that's okay. If everybody else is happy with that, then we'll crack on. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. So item number 4, declaration of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of businesses with transacted on the agenda. Are there any?
Yes. So my brother is the beneficiary of the business of the sandwich shop. I am beneficiary of the rent of it. I have no pecuniary interest in chairing the Sandwich Community Events Association, but I have an organisational interest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 5, Guildhall Square and Forecourt. To receive and consider a report information on how the management of the Guildhall Square should be formalised following the completion of the groundworks. Attachment 1. Now this is the attachment, I don't know if everybody's seen it, it's the old attachment. If you want to look at it. That's disappeared yet again. I was trying to find it earlier but couldn't find it. So I've written down bits and pieces.
Can I make an interesting observation? The naming of it isn't on the agenda, but it was discussed a long time ago. But the chair has just referred to it as a Guildhall Square and Forecourt.
Yeah. So I do believe the new name is the Guildhall Square.
I don't know if that's been adopted by council.
Not at present, but that's what the contractors are calling it, the Guildhall Square.
The working group, the design group, which might be 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I don't know, did actually recommend a name change because it did find that Forecourt was cumbersome and not fully understood, and that either Town Square or Guildhall Square was probably more appropriate. But it's obviously up to this. Sorry, this is probably quite important.
Has that got to be rectified by the council?
Well, we can rectify if you want to rectify it. I mean, it's been called so many Council Wild.
I mean, this is a chance to rebrand and to relaunch everything, so my view is Town Square.
Sandwich Town Square?
Sandwich Town Square.
Yeah.
It's the centre of the town.
Yeah.
So, what else? Is anyone else's thoughts on renaming the square?
I think that's a positive suggestion.
The Sandwich Town Square.
So are we talking about Town Square or Guildhall Square?
See, my personal preference would be Guildhall Square because it's on the Guildhall.
And I don't think we should get hung up about it.
No.
And we should rapidly move it.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
I would go for Guildhall Square. Which sounds much better.
Okay, Guildhall Square, excellent.
Mm.
So, where are we? So we're gonna. So I've changed the items slightly on the paper there. So we're gonna. So the first one that I'm going to speak about is Councillor Green's report, to which it's regarding the questions that we asked the project officer, David Harris.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, you know, I'm particularly interested in the engineering works and the completion of the Guildhall Square so that everything is safe for the public. And in doing so, I'm keen to make sure that the contractor does the appropriate tests and also completes the works in accordance with the construction design and management regulations, in which is basically a folder that he should provide all of the test certificates for the electrical works and a confirmation certificate to say that all of the works has been carried out in accordance with the specification, but also provides information on how the square should be maintained, because there are lots of things. There's manholes that need keys, there may be manual lifting implications, you know, there is electrics, the electric drawings, how people get to the switchboards and so forth. And all of that information together with spares, because no doubt at some stage soon, you know, one of the utility companies will want to come along and lay a cable right across the centre of it or something like that, in which case, if it's built, if it's dug up, we need to be able to have access and information as to how to properly reinstate the, you know, the Guildhall Square, because hopefully it's going to be here for many, many years. And so all of that information, together with operational information, because it's my understanding that the Guildhall Square, while the work has been completed by Dover, it is leased to Sandwich Town Council, and it's Sandwich Town Council who are responsible for the maintenance of the area. And so, as we all know, Yorkstone paving can become covered with algae and it needs to be cleaned. I don't know if the works are going to be sealed with a sealer, but how it's going to be maintained, and in the event of a spillage by a market trader or the events or one of their vehicles leaking oil, you know, what is the process and procedure, and to make sure that whoever's going to be the caretakers looking after it, they have the proper information, and also any services that are running to the existing shops and premises, that we've got proper record drawings as to their location, and, you know, from a disabled point of view, to make sure that the surfaces are smooth and there aren't any trips or, you know, that's going to wrong foot people. So that's a file of information that only the contractor and Dover District Council as the project managers should provide to Sandwich Town Council and their maintenance people and give proper instruction. And so I look forward to having sight of that information and being able to walk around with the project manager to be able to see that all of that work has been completed properly and the information is made available.
I do know that the questions that you asked will get sent to David Parish at DDC, and some of them were answered. I don't know if you've all seen a copy of that for Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I have seen it, and I looked at it with great interest. It came late this afternoon, and he has answered some of the questions,
yeah. But
I have two remaining questions. One is, there's a sort of implication, I'm not saying that, I'm sort of guessing that all these checks will take time, and that it's possible that the contractor will start to say that this will take time, but we're nudging up against this real hard deadline for the event that really demands the forecourt, and that some of these checks will not take place until after that event takes place. And I think that has all sorts of insurance implications. I presume it has, as a consequence. So that was my first worry. And the second worry was that David Parish doesn't respond at all about the questions about how the trees are going to be maintained. And that's left completely unanswered. So I don't know, does DVC have responsibility for maintaining the irrigation of the trees? Does STC? What discussion has taken place? Because those trees, people struggled for them. I remember the original plan when we were consulted, had no trees on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people locally said, we want trees, and we got trees, but we must have trees that survive and thrive. And I want to know how that's going to be guaranteed.
Okay, well, that's something we should look into.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Carol.
You have here a really full list. If David Parish has now received it, one assumes that we want an answer to everything that's on that list. And so whether or not we're able to decide that tonight, given that you've just had a late delivery of some information, is this something that I could suggest that Councillor Breen actually picks up, and
Yes.
maybe you give the Councillor Breen the opportunity of meeting and having that meeting. I don't know. But
Yes, the report that Councillor Breen done, the questions are very good questions. It's your one of your expertise, so you know what you're talking about. So my theory would be for Councillor Breen to lead on the questions and answers to the project officers to get these rectified and questions answered as soon as possible.
Well, I'm happy to do so, but just to be clear, what I'm really looking for is a file with all of this information in.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for some reassurance from the site foreman. I'm looking for a file of record information that's going to survive us all, just as the works in the courtyard.
Yeah, I mean
That's what I'm looking for, and that's what they should provide, so that the information on the irrigation works and so forth, that on the trees, all of that, it should be in this document that I'm looking for. And it's normal practice on a construction works that the contractor and project manager give the end user an early sight of that document, so that they can familiarise themselves with it. The maintenance people who are going to be doing the work can familiarise themselves with the contents of that file, so that they understand what they need to do from day one. And whether it's allowing vehicles to run on, because the concrete takes 28 days to reach its design strength once it's laid and so forth. So, these are some of the practical considerations for the early use of the square. And also, just to kind of pick up on the concern that Councillor Unkerson raised, we don't want to be boxed in and having to accept it because we allow people onto the forecourt, the courtyard. And because if we do that, there are kind of contractual implications. And they should either offer up a sectional completion to say, we'll make this section available, or a total completion. And I'm very conscious that the works do not just entail work that's taken place outside this building, but work that's taken place over by the No Name shop and so forth, which was all part of this scheme, as I understand it.
Would you be happy to work with the town clerk to get a documentation produced?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Well, as I say, it's their responsibility to produce the document. It's Dover. It's our responsibility to accept it.
Yeah, I mean we have the weekend there this weekend, and they have certified the electrics. It says here as well. There's electric safety certificates for this weekend only. They're not for the full works. They're just for the ones you're going to use for this
Even so,
weekend.
we are not using the new electrics, we're
No.
using the existing electrics. Both sets work, both sets have been tested, so I'm happy that we will exclude the new And in discussing it with Joe, who is the project manager, and David, when David was here, at every point I emphasised, this is not an acceptance, this is not an assumed, and I followed that up in writing with an email, and again emphasising, so that I think that when any conversation should be as if we haven't used it. So it's not a case of, yes, you've used it, it looks good, it's great, you've tried that. No, as far as we're concerned, we haven't used it. All we're doing is, we're using it courtesy of the contractor, not courtesy of Sandwich Town Council.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Is there a deadline? I mean, given that you've got another festival in a few weeks, is there going to be a deadline? Because it sounds as though this file that already should be there is actually very urgent, and the conversation or the confirmation is urgent now too. So is Sandwich Town Council allowed to put a deadline on the date by which that file should be?
I don't think Sandwich Town Council can put a deadline for that. It all depends on how the works progress. I think the documentation of the file, as it were, would be handed over on the handover period with everything on in it.
Contractually speaking, the Dover as the client and manager of the contractor should have specified a completion date, and if that completion date is not achieved, there should be variations to extend the completion date. And I'm not aware if there are any costs or liquidated damages, as we would say, for delay in the event of the non-completion, because obviously if the contractor, in a commercial situation, if the contractor doesn't achieve the deadline date, you can't penalise the contractor, but you should be able to recover an estimate of the costs that you incur because of delayed delivery.
Yeah, one thing that the contractor came up with was there is additional services underneath the square which were discovered during excavations following the agreement of how long it would take, or approximately take.
So the engineer should have made a proper evaluation of the extent of the delay and extended the completion date by whatever that was. And if the contractor has a claim against that because he says it took him longer, well then, there is a dispute resolution course that he could follow under the contract.
This is where my pecuniary interest does come into it, because I have it in writing for some time ago that work would not be done, would be completed before the high season. The damage being done to the business is very considerable, but I don't know where we stand contractually. So it's not the town council that's suffering monetary loss, but the business certainly is. And as I said, I had it in writing from way back when that the work would be done in low season, not high season, which is of course not happening.
Councillor Flynn, sorry, have you got input on that?
I've got cold here, this is it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
We talk about a completion date, and I presume there is a contract which contains a completion date. And I'm just wondering whether Sandwich Town Council has ever had or anybody connected with Sandwich has ever had sight of that contract and the proposed completion date. Maybe Councillor Morehouse, yeah. I mean, it is extraordinary that we are completely in the dark as to, it seems, as to what the contract says.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Morehouse?
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. I think that given that we're putting in £350,000 to this project, I think the town council has been treated rather shabbily. We've had very little information. I've tried to engage with the project officer, who says we should go through STC. I've never seen sight of a contract. Is it, what kind of contract is it? Is it a contract that includes penalties for late completion? We just don't know. It just seems to be drifting and drifting. I was away all last week, and when I came back, the only bit that seemed to have been done was the bit that Councillor Marie and I said could be adapted for the bus stand. it's almost like they deliberately laid slabs there but didn't seem to do much else.
Who was the contract between?
Huh?
Who was the contract
It's
between?
between ACER and DDC.
DGC, yeah.
DDC are the project manager.
So part of the questions that were asked with to David Parish, which is answered here. So one of them is dates for sectional or final completion, and he's written works will largely be completed by the end of June in brackets, but are likely to run into July. Takeover arrangements include a list of snags and defect work, and blue writing, his writing, meeting will be arranged with STC. Defect liability period is a 12-month rectification period. Details of the final costs and amounts of retention. Works not yet complete. 5% retention is currently being held with a 2.5% being released at practical completion. Contract sum for the square works at £607,000 in brackets, which will equate to a retention amount of roughly £15,000. An arrangement for any completion ceremony planned by the district council to be confirmed.
Can I just say, yeah, thank you for that. I hadn't kind of picked up on that. But those are just some of many questions that we need to be asked. Yeah. Just like, you know, if there is an issue, who do we contact? Do we contact Dover to a snag for them during the defects liability period, for Dover to instruct them to come, or who calls who, and what are the communication rates, and what's the contacts? And sorry, the final point, and it's a really important point, especially for business owners and property owners around the square, that the level of the works as laid do not impinge in any way on, you know, the integrity of those properties. And if there are any doubts, you know, we may be looking to Dover or the contractor to provide an indemnity against any future claims.
I think also, sorry,
Councillor Wells first.
I mean, the absolutely critical date is the 29th of June.
Yes.
Because the folk and ale is on the next day. They will need access to the square on the previous day. If they don't have access to the whole of the square, or at least 95% of it, then that whole festival is threatened. Richard Harris is meeting with the project manager on Tuesday morning, but it's disappointing that the project manager, as far as I'm aware, has not met any councillor of STC. But we were given, this working group was given full delegated authority to get this sorted out. So I think we should agree that Councillor Green, with his commercial and contractual background, should perhaps seek a meeting with the project manager.
Well, for the record, the critical date I think was June the 10th, which is tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
I had it in writing that the completion date was late May. The May split into early June.
Yeah.
I communicated through the correct channels, including the town clerk on numerous occasions, to progress chase it in February, March, April, and it's only very recently that we were advised of the problems which we're now suffering, which are massive. And had I known then what I know now, I would have cancelled Louis End. It's proven to be an absolute nightmare, and it's all down to the fact that we had in writing late May, early June, which gave the impression that surely most of the work would be finished by late May, and that by June the 10th we would be able to have a reasonable service on there. Of course, that's turned out to be not the case at all.
Yes, the other thing that really worries me is what Councillor Green has said about concrete and vehicles, because just from observation, the events do entail vehicles coming onto the square area. So even if the work is completed by June the 29th, or whatever the final date is, there's still a possibility that we then have to wait another 28 days before it becomes practical for an event to take place on the square. So, I mean, that puts out the whole of the summer.
Sorry, I spoke with the contractors today when I was walking through the square, and I posed that very question because I'd heard it yesterday from the market traders. the market traders are very concerned, because even if they can put their stalls on the market, they're worried that they won't be able to drive the stalls and the goods onto the market. The contractor said that if you look at the way they had completed the sections of the square, so there was a 2-week delay because they found things that nobody had previously mapped out, so that had caused that delay. But the way that they've done it is, if you look at the way that vehicles would come onto the forecourt, that has already been done and completed a little while ago. So they're finishing off what's left up to where the bus stop and just beyond. That's the plan. And once all that is open, effectively the concrete that in the areas they started at, it's been 2 months since or more. Now I understand this is what they are saying, which is why I think we can't answer any of those questions until you've got all of that detail back.
And that's why I'm asking for
Yes.
the drawings,
Yeah.
because they can show
Yeah.
and map out areas and indemnify us or events for lorries going onto
Yeah.
the square. This is exactly what, and I've also noticed that the thickness of the slabs, they have different type of thickness slabs. Some are 100 mil thick, some are 50 mil thick, you know, so obviously, you know, putting lorries with high axle loads onto the thicker slabs could well be acceptable, but if they run on the thinner slabs, the slabs are more likely to move, and then the joints break and you get weeds and more maintenance and all of those types of things.
I mean,
So
it boils
I
down
understand
to-
that what you're saying
Yeah.
is absolutely right, Carol. We just need to have the information, and if needs be, they need to put some tape down on, so on the ground, so the access routes for vehicles are absolutely clear.
Yeah. So
Okay, let's move on to the next item, but first I'd like to make a proposal that Councillor Breen chases up the questions with the town clerk and calls a meeting with yourself and the town clerk and the project officer. Can I have a proposal and a seconder for that, please?
can we put a date on it? Because I do think you have to have, given the businesses, given the festivals, we can't. I mean, and also if a project manager is going to be available on Tuesday to speak to one of the festival organisers, well, surely the most important people they should be talking to is Councillor Breen. So can we not ensure that
We
sorted?
can do, but the idea is it states on the many emails that from David Parrish that we must go through the town clerk to speak with
That's
him.
fine.
So,
The town clerk can
that's
send
all.
an emergency.
Sorry, I'll repeat that this working group was given delegated authority by the council to deal with this whole matter. And so I think we should give delegated authority to Councillor Breen to contact the project manager and meet with him on Tuesday morning when he's here.
May I suggest going via the town clerk? I know
Through the
it's
town
only 3
clerk,
days a week.
but we have to insist on that.
Yeah.
We have to insist upon a quick meeting.
I'm
To
happy
get all
to
this
meet them on
information.
Monday morning.
Yeah.
You know, if
Whenever.
we can arrange
It's
it for
convenient.
Monday morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it has to be, the project officer does state that we have to go through the town
I
clerk.
understand that. We'll do that.
Yeah.
But with regards to timing, there are 3 essentially events. There is the weekend this weekend where we essentially have sorted out what's going to happen, including the fact that there will be no vehicles.
No vehicles on there at all.
The second one is the Folk and Ale, where we've spoken to the ACER project manager and David Parrish, and both agree that parts of the square can have vehicles on.
Yeah.
And then there is a third one, which is the final sign-off, and they are 3 distinct points of things happening to the square. So with regard to the final sign-off, we do have a number of weeks, let's say, as soon as possible, yes, but Monday.
Sorry, but I hear what you're saying, but given what we've just heard, if the contractor, and as lovely as they are, the contractor says it's all fine, and then something goes wrong, what cover have we really got if it's not been signed off officially by cut the contractor to Dover and Dover to us. I mean, that's where there's a bit of a catch, isn't there?
Yeah.
So
Because at the
Well,
moment, the
sorry,
owner
contractually there is a route, and it's called the sectional completions.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I put in there, where they say this section of the work is
Yes.
complete and it's clearly identified. If they're doing that and we're going through a series of sectional completions leading up
yeah,
to the practical completion, and then the full completion would be 12 months after each section is handed over. But in order for them to hand over a section, we should have all of them.
Yeah. that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. So proposal and second is for Councillor Boone to take control of the.
I propose.
Thank you.
Well, Colin.
So Councillor proposed. Councillor Wild second. All those in favour? Excellent. Cool. So let's move on to the other stuff because that's taken half an hour already. So the new layout of the square. So this is where we're going to do it in two sections. So we're going to deal with the administrative and activities, and then the second will have to be referred back to STC in case of any funding requirements. So the first one is the new layout of the square. Now I don't know if anyone's seen the original plans for the square. They have changed slightly with the square. It says for us to look at how much we can fit on the square at any one time. But the trouble is we don't know that yet until the square's completed and trees are in and the planters are in and stuff like that. So we may have to leave that one until the next time regarding that one.
Can I ask a question? Will the final documentation or the documentation file, will that have a map that shows?
It should have an as-built drawing showing the position of all of the street furniture, all of the manholes, all of the access points for the electricity, all of the underground services. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we should have that record as built.
We might get it.
Yes, we might get that. Might be part of.
in the same context as Market Street, where we have to consider where the stalls go for fire access.
Yeah.
Will we have to do the same thing for this square? So will there be not a defined layout, but at least a defined access route?
Yes, there will be. Like there was in the recent on the old style square.
As I understand it, instead of having the in-out two-drop curb access points, there's only one. I do believe the original design that went out to consultation had two, vehicles in, vehicles out. I think there's only going to be one, and it'll have a lockable bollard. And the lockable drop bollard in the archway always proved to be a major problem because it would stick.
Yeah.
You couldn't find somebody with a key. So that's something to be aware of.
And the old one was always down, never up.
Well, it got stuck in that position. So you couldn't get an ambulance in, you couldn't get goods in.
Yeah.
I think that's a design issue that perhaps it's not too late to address.
Sorry, a design issue that you'd like?
I don't think it's too late to address it. I think it's long term, it's a significant issue.
And again, with regard to access, entrance and exit, there's shared entrance and exit, and it's over by Costa rather than this end.
Which is
So whether that's an issue with visibility, cars coming up New Street.
What we know from events and markets is the issues of manoeuvring large vehicles in and out is a major challenge, and if you've restricted it to only one drop curb, you've created a long-term real logistical problem.
Okay, next one on the agenda is to review the Guildhall Square hire agreements. Has everyone seen all the hire agreements? Now there's three, and I've printed off all three of them. So there's one for the Thursday market, one for the regular commercial hire of the Guildhall Square, and one for standard conditions for the hire of the square, and they all say the same thing. Slight differs on each one, but they pretty much all say the same thing. So,
The problem is that
yeah.
that's not so much.
And the charge is £15, is that right?
So the charges for the so this is for one I'm reading is the Thursday market. So the fees for a 3x3 metre pitch is £25 per day, including vehicles from where trade is undertaken, i.e. butcher or hot food. and in brackets, between the 14th of January and the 1st of April, the fee will be £20 per 3x3 pitch. Over 3x3 metre pitch and up to a 6x6 metre pitch is £50 a day.
Say it again.
£50
It's
a day.
50.
Yeah. In brackets, between the 14th of January and the 1st of April, the fee will be £40 per 6x6 pitch. So I'm not sure about the others. I think they're all roughly the same. So currently, Tracy, can I ask you a question? So currently, what's the fee at the moment for you?
At the back,
Yes,
£10.
£10 a week.
Yeah.
What was it before you moved to the square? Before you moved to the car park?
It was originally 15 and then they put it up to 20 and then 25.
There was a range of prices depending on the size of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Size of the
It went up as high as 40 for some of them at
Yeah.
one stage.
So can I just say that you have actually got this listed specifically dealing with fees, because the fees are a financial issue, and so it's listed under the items that would have to come back to council, and I think that the issue around how much they would cost, so it's a separate item on your agenda, which I think really you should it needs a longer discussion than what we're just having now.
Yes, I agree, but
Sure.
I just want to ask a question, and maybe some market people here know how that fee structure compares with deal market.
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
Yeah.
How much more expensive?
Well, I think deal's like £15 a pitch. But also
That's
in
their
the
Saturday
winter,
market.
yeah, but in the winter they drop it right down to £10. So, and so does Dover Market, they drop it down, but they do a kipper rent, as they call it.
A kipper.
And also Dover gets free parking as well,
You've got it here.
Dover Market.
So you have to pay for parking.
We have to pay for parking now unless we can find somewhere to park for free.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't been on the market long, we sell the pastries and pasties and things. We actually hit an all-time high on Thursday, which we took a £201.50. Now, we don't expect to take much more than that because we make everything ourselves, so I physically can't make any more than that. However, if we're talking £40, £50 parking, end of us, sorry, that is literally the situation. If we're paying £40 out for the market stalls, £10 for parking, plus our ingredients, plus our fuel, it's no point us being here, to be honest. So whether you want the market or whether you don't, that would be a kiss of death for us. So that wouldn't happen to us.
Thank you for that.
Anymore.
That's
Just to put things in perspective, really, price-wise.
That's what
I think the market is a separate issue to some extent because
Yes.
by the sound of it, the market is not going to be on that square until mid-July at the earliest.
No.
So I think we need a more structured and reasoned
We can have
discussion about,
another discussion.
because this working group was given authority to deal with this unless there are financial implications, which there are if we're talking about fees. I think we need a proper plan for the market.
Yeah.
We need a launch date.
Yeah.
We need to think about through the market manager, getting new traders in, revamping the whole thing, maybe having rent-free periods,
That's an advertisement.
maybe having rent-free periods for the first 6 weeks, something like that, just to make it a bit more like deal, because with all due respect, that market is not particularly good.
We'll talk about the market. We'll talk about the money and the market side of things. It's part of the agenda that I've written up. So the one that I've kind of baselined everything in from clerical stuff to business money side of things. So we go back to
on the fee side, you ask the question in principle, not values.
Yeah.
When you look at events like the Sandwich Orders Bank Holiday Festival, which used to be a Sandwich Town Council initiative, and when you look at Christmas lights, is the intention to charge or not to charge? Forget the value, the amount. The principle is that Sandwich Town Council gives grants to those events. Are you looking to take some of the grant back again on fees, or are you recognising those events were effectively town events sponsored by Sandwich Town
My
Council.
personal preference, my personal opinion would be not to charge any of the established events that run in the town, because they bring in revenue, they bring in tourism, they make the town boom every time they run. So my preference would be no, but it'll be up to council or working group to decide whether they were charged or not.
I mean, that's why I'm asking for the principle, because I see them as Sandwich Town Council sponsored events.
Yeah.
So effectively, they are your events managed by volunteers, for which you actually give the organising team grants to put the event on.
I think the right place for this kind of discussion is finance and general purposes.
Yeah.
To then report to
But,
the council, but it's very useful to have this information.
but there's actually quite a lot that we should really be covering, which I think is what the chair has got down here, because there are some facts that I think you really do need to know. I mean, I was in the market on Thursday, so there's a whole load of other information and it leads on, but a lot of these have implications with respect to finance because they lead on. So if the chairs are perhaps allowed to go through the ones, because the others this evening, and then we've got these on the list, or it's on this list, because it was on the original list that was sent out. The higher fees, who's going to pay them, how's it going to be done, and it won't just be for the market, it will obviously have to cover the things for all the events as well. But
yeah, I mean, the back to the point, we'll talk about the money side of things when we get to it. But the other thing is the conditions, the terms and conditions for the hire of the Guildhall. So has everyone read all three of them? Because there's obviously three of them. But is there any input of anything to put in regarding changing them? For instance, like new vehicles in the new square, and for instance, like oil spills and stuff like that. Do we put this in part of the terms and conditions to say if any damages have occurred, then they have to pay for them, etc.?
Well, someone needs to look at all three documents and create a single
Yeah.
comprehensive document.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be
Maybe
done.
for the next meeting of this working group.
Yeah.
Perhaps not now.
And I think also the cleaning schedule, because if you're going to say to somebody your vehicle has spilt some oil, and they can point and say, well, the whole place is filthy, then you don't really have a leg to stand on. And you can see, if you go to Canterbury, the brand new surface in Canterbury is disgraceful, and that's only been there for a month, 2 months.
Looks awful.
Yeah. Okay.
so what you're agreeing, you're going to review the three documents, yeah?
And we amalgamate all three of them together.
But I think on the market we need a separate discussion.
I agree.
We need to get feedback from the stallholders. Why have some stallholders gone? Is it financial? Is it lack of footfall? We need a report from the market manager about what she can do to promote the market more widely.
It's all here.
And have a relaunch, a revamp.
Okay.
And, if that means having a 6-week holiday or whatever for fees, we have to accept that could bring many more people into the town, which is good for the town generally.
Yeah.
It's not just about the financial relationship with stallholders, it's about the town as a whole.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. We'll crack on with the next one then. So number 4 on my thing is an alcohol licence. Do members have a view on who should hold this alcohol licence if we get one? And should it be remembered that the licence holder must be present during any event? Is this feasible? What were the previous arrangements? I know that one already. The options are given the event organiser of a hospitality venue such as the Guildhall or the Guildhall licence holder. If the citizen is the event organiser, then a copy of the licence should be submitted to the town clerk prior to any event, and it should be made clear that the licence holder must take charge for an alcohol-related issue, drunken behaviour at all times. What's people's thoughts on that? I mean, currently what happens is a Thames licence, isn't it? So every event organiser, the manager, say for instance myself, Steve, Simon, we apply for a Thames licence for the square, and and we have that licence to hand on us during the event, because we're always around the town, and that's how it's going to be run. I mean, would this work, we could consider that the Guildhall gain a licence for outside the square permanent basis, or would they like to continue with the events holding them?
That sort of gives us the town council the responsibility for enforcing a license, all the conditions of the license.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do that.
I know the Guildhall got a licence inside, but not for the outside.
No.
And how do you switch it off and switch it on? Because, you know, if somebody just sets up a little booze shop, are they covered by us? I mean, obviously, I'm being almost facile here, but you know, who is then allowed to sell booze and who isn't? I think Ken's situation as stands has worked.
Yeah.
So why change it?
That's fine. Cool. Okay. That's fine. Number 5, public space protection orders. So currently there is a except for events, there is a current public space protection order for no drinking on the square at any time. It still stands. I've checked it. It does still stand. Do we wish to keep that public space protection order for the square?
Did you say no drinking at any time?
It's no drinking at any time except for when there's a tens on the square.
Telling places you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, who enforces it?
Isn't there a notice outside opposite the chip shop that says anybody being requested to not drink alcohol by a uniformed officer must do it if they don't comply to offence?
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
how's
public
that
space protection order.
But that means it's only if they're asked to stop drinking, they have to stop drinking. In other words, you can drink them.
And as Councillor Wiles has said, who will enforce it?
Well, a uniformed officer
Yeah.
has to. What I'm saying is at the moment, as I understand it, there is no blanket ban on drinking on the forecourt, as is square as well.
Right.
The enforcement is only if a uniformed officer asks you to stop. Like if you're rowdy, drunken.
Yeah. I do know that the Market Inn have just received their licence for chairs and tables for the new square to be put on there. I'm going to speak to the new landlady on Tuesday. So
they have got permission to put
Yes.
tables and chairs. Oh, right.
on the square.
Well, that means that presumably that protection order doesn't cover the bit of the square that the Market Inn will
No.
have tables and chairs on.
No, there is not a protection order at the moment to prohibit consumption of alcohol. You are allowed to consume alcohol, but if asked by a uniformed officer to stop, it's an offence if you do not stop.
Yeah.
Yes, but the trouble is that we don't have uniformed
I'm
officers.
simply saying what the notice says is out there. And for what it's worth, while you're talking about the licence for the furniture, having inquired with Dover Council about licensing when Sandwich owns the square, why would we still need tables and chairs licence, street furniture licence from DDC? And the answer is, regardless of the ownership, it's the fact that you're putting tables and chairs in a publicly accessible space, you still need a licence from DDC, not STC.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask this public space protection order? It exists where? Where does it exist? Has STC got a copy? Do they hand
That's
it out?
It's DDC that.
DDC have got
Yeah.
it. So do they? So for instance, do they hand it out to everybody that hires a?
I haven't looked for more than a year, so it may have been taken down. But if you're going to have a look,
There
there's
is.
a notice that tells the public.
I think there's one just on the gap between
By the
King
flagpole.
Street and Market Street.
Yeah, by the flag. There's one
Oh,
by
no,
the flag.
there's
By the
another
flagpole,
one.
yeah.
There's another one by St Peter's.
Quite likely.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So it could be just Sandwich.
there is no blanket ban.
No.
So the marketing would be allowed to serve for consumption in public space, as indeed Sam Shop used to have an alcohol licence. And so the consumption of alcohol on the square was allowed. I mean, we don't have a licence, they don't have a licence any longer, but the consumption of alcohol in the outdoors is allowed.
So when I'm flipping a bit, but when you have an event where you've got a beer tent or a beer place on the square, the license would have been applied for by that person holding that event, or the event manager, or does it come down to the person who's actually serving the alcohol?
It's the event organiser, so the term can be applied for either by the event organiser or, in the case of tomorrow in Kent side for Market Street, either can apply.
Right,
And that licence is for the sale of.
right.
you can then sell it. But what we've been talking about the last few minutes is the consumption, which is a different regulation, and there is no inhibition on the consumption of alcohol in Sandwich Town unless you're challenged by a uniform officer to say stop.
Right. I'm just thinking about what happened last year when there was a lot of drinking going on. There was no one there monitoring, as it appears, what was being sold or what people were drinking. They were also bringing in their own bottles, beers, whatever, and there was no control of it, which is how all those pubs and things got shut down. And we don't really want another that to start again, which is why I was asking the question.
You're absolutely allowed to. So what will happen this weekend, people will go into the spa, they'll buy cans of lager and they'll sit and watch the music, and that is legal.
Yeah.
Or they'll buy cider from the Kent cider store. Both are legal.
Yeah.
What isn't legal, of course, is bad behaviour.
Yeah.
So when behaviour becomes rowdy or threatening, then that's a different offence.
And who steps in then? No one? The events organiser should, or
That's it's a moot point. The event would steward it, but there would come a point they'd have to do a 999 because as citizens and marshals wearing high-vis tops, we have no legal powers of arrest or whatever. So if it got bad, it would be a 999.
We had a similar situation at Lights a couple of years ago, didn't we, when one of the councillors was assaulted. So yeah, we had that. We dealt with it to the point where it got too much, and then we called the police. So
yeah, no.
So we'll leave the PSP thing for the time being.
Yeah.
So number 6 on mine is the cleaning of the Guildhall surface. So this was covered under the section 2 item B from Councillor Breen's report. There's been no response to this question. We need to clarify that for us as well, so when we have the handover period, if any leakage or spillages, etc., are happening or happened, so for instance oil or fuel, etc., then who will be responsible for the clean up, which probably will be STC. However, part of the agreements for the agreements that we're going to, the terms and conditions for Highland Square will be that they have to sign my opinion is they have to sign an agreement to say if any vehicles or anything are any spillages, then you will be liable for the costings to have professional clean.
In terms of the market, where you've got individuals renting a space and you've got the market manager, who's responsible? The market manager? Is the market manager regarded as being responsible for the whole space, or working for the Guildhall or Sandwich Town Council, collecting fees from the market?
Sandwich Town Council owns the market. The market manager is simply a go-between and an employee. The Sandwich Town Council decided in its wisdom to take the contract for running the market off the community interest company and took it in-house. So from that point on, it's your market. So the market is yours. And how you run it is entirely up to yourselves. You happen to have agreed to allow the market manager who was doing it for the community interest company, the CIC, to continue doing the job, but on behalf of STC. So all the contractual responsibility between the market and the traders is with STC.
Right.
That answers the question.
So each trader would have to.
So that's another thing we have to work on regarding the market, because it will coincide with my next one as well.
Yeah.
So, which is vehicles on the square.
Because again, it'd be interesting to know what deal.
Yes. So Deal will do theirs in Deal car park. So
Can I ask a question? We had before the forecourt was redone, the square was done. We had real problems with pigeons droppings. Has that? Do we know whether that's been?
No.
So we went on the square this morning to have a discussion about French weekend, and we can see the pigeon droppings everywhere, all down the same side as it was before. It looks an absolute state. Now, about 6 months ago to a year ago, it came to full council for the pigeons to be dealt with. One said councillor said no, you can't kill birds, etc., etc. So it's squashed. In my opinion, pigeons are vermin. And I do plan to The street ones, not the racing ones, might I just say. I do plan to put an item on the agenda for next council meeting to have pest control come in, and because that's one of the causes why the roofs.
You can have, there are proper things that you can have erected that stop the pigeons. They don't kill them, they just stop them landing there. They do go somewhere else, but that is really important.
I mean, Ramsgate Town Centre had a big problem with it a few years ago when I worked for Fenwick Council, and they had a guy with a Kestrel falcon or something flying around the square, and they dealt with it within.
They've got artificial ones in Dover that fly around. They're not real.
So I'll do Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, I've got a pigeon problem in my garden, and I started trapping them in a humane trap and took them down the bay, and they flew straight up in the air and straight back to my house. So removing them, either you shoot them or you poison them, or the problem is people feeding them. You have to address the feeding.
But there are companies that actually put up a proper rail that actually stop them at sitting on the edge of those gutters.
They're very unsightly.
They are not particularly nice to look at, but you can't. I just think that's going to be a major problem. It was before, and if nothing's been done about it, your Guildhall Square is going to be ruined.
But whoever is feeding them, someone must be feeding them.
Well, there's loads of people
They need to be challenged.
Yeah.
There's someone feeds the pigeons in St Peter's Churchyard every day. They're vermin. I agree.
So I do plan to bring that up to full council next council meeting regarding the pigeons. So because it needs to be dealt with, because otherwise we've got all those brand new lookstone pavings and stuff that was very nice, and then there's loads of
damaging.
Yes. So 'cause it stains it as well. So yeah, cool. Okay, we'll do that. So vehicles on the square. So currently in the market regarding the Thursday market, and it's been in force for the last 2 years, is that the market traders can drive onto the square, unload, and then they have to take their vehicles off the square and then bring them back again when they want to load up to go home. Now, that was brought in by the former town clerk before the works took place, so the market traders could get used to doing so before the works took place. Now, we need people's opinions on the vehicles vehicles on the square for market day, and also for events. Now, my opinion would be for the market is keep it the same. So they load, they come on, they drive on the square, they unload, and then they move off from the square. Regarding the vehicles on the square for events, if it's regarding like a burger van, then yes, they can stay on there. Forties weekend, Council Malik does sometimes bring a couple of his tanks down and
be very cautious.
Parks them on there.
No tanks.
As well. And obviously this August as well, we have the Alfa Romeo Owners Club that come down. They've come down for the last 4 years. Love coming down here, and they park their vehicles on the square. So can I ask for people's thoughts regarding
Somebody behind you.
Sorry,
Sorry. Talking about the vehicles on and off,
Yeah.
we've got used to it now,
Yeah.
but can I just say that's why the market is not as good as it is, because 3/4 of them left because they wouldn't work without their vehicle.
Couldn't work with it.
Yes, and some can't work without their vehicles on there. Yeah.
And what
She's
we learned,
still allowed on.
and what we learned this weekend is, in some instances, you don't know the difference between a stall and a vehicle which becomes a stall. And when we said to the French traders, you cannot bring your vehicles onto the new square, you have to unload and push your goods in. I expect them to complain because of the hard work. They said, well, that doesn't work. The vehicle is the stall. And that's what's causing the problem.
It is very hard work to take the vehicles
Yeah,
off.
And the other
And surely driving around, if you drive on and park, you're not doing as much damage as you drive on, drive around, drive off, drive on, drive around, drive off.
The other problem the market stall people have, if they drive on to the market, then offload and then drive off, they have to then find somewhere to park, and it's actually another £9 or £10 per day that they've got to put onto their costs or to recover,
That's what
which
it's
is,
saying.
you know, which is, doesn't seem correct. It's not something that's going to encourage our market to grow.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I agree with that.
And they'd be taking up parking spaces that customers could
Yeah,
potentially
correct.
use, which we do need for customers.
And
Anyone else?
also they could park, could they not, on the surrounding York slabs, which seem to me, which look more robust in terms of supporting vehicles.
But if
Isn't that right?
if Councillor Breen finds that out,
Yeah.
then the decision really is a council decision. Can they bring their vehicles on and keep them?
Yes.
I'm fairly confident it's not a weight bearing issue, because you have to have access to fire engines, ambulances, etc. Fairly certain the design spec was to accommodate vehicles. It's a usage and aesthetics consideration, and one or two councillors who aren't on council anymore some years ago did not like the look of vehicles there whilst the market is trading and want to get rid of the shabby vehicles. So that was the main consideration, more than weight bearing. I think you'll find, and of course Councillor Green will check, I'm sure, I don't think it's a weight bearing issue.
Okay.
Wonderful. Can I be?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Green.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
So I agree with what Steve says regarding weight. I don't think it's going to be a weight issue. What do other councillors think on it regarding?
I think we want a thriving market.
Yes, we do. Yes.
And if one of the conditions is that they're allowed to leave their vehicles for as long as they trade on the square, I mean,
I think,
to me it's a no-brainer. I don't care about the aesthetics of it.
I agree. I think leaving engines running and oil spillage are the two big concerns.
You could look at a variable fee depending on the space of the combination of the stall and the vehicle. There's lots of ways you can approach it.
Is that going to be proposed? Because that's got no cost implication to Sandwich Town Council. It's only.
So we propose that we allow the market traders to have their vehicles back on the square then when the square's complete.
I think so, but I see the point about not keeping engines running.
Yeah.
Because that might be a condition of their store working properly. I mean, if they have to run stuff to keep stuff hot, keep stuff cold.
Ice cream vans. Ice cream vans are the ones.
It's only the French that do that when they've got their refrigerators on,
Yes.
isn't it?
I don't
Sorry,
think
could you
they
say
don't
that
keep the engine running.
No.
But, yeah.
They plug into the locker.
We wouldn't have to, we've got cold blocks and refrigerated display units on for our stuff anyway. It would only possibly be meat maybe or fish, but we don't
Yeah,
have
they don't
those
have
in
their
it.
engines running.
No.
When Chandler were done with there, they hooked up to the electrics, didn't they? They
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
use
they
it.
use
Could be a small
I don't think that would be an issue.
when you do your.
And even when the proposition man was there, he didn't have his engine
No.
No,
running.
it's even run off automatic.
So maybe-
Can I make a suggestion that you should allow vehicles onto the market in principle,
Yeah.
but the conditions whereby need thinking through.
Yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
entirely.
So conditions of that, no engines running, etc. And
Not only that, you don't want every stall to have carte blanche to plug your vehicle wherever you want it. You want to manage a situation where it's sensible, where the vehicle is almost an integral part of the stall, or the nature of the goods is such unrealistic to unload and reload.
Yeah.
But don't just make a free car park for anybody who fancies it.
no.
Like, look at it more carefully.
Yes.
So in principle, yes, but it's got to be a managed situation.
And also with regard to parking on the square, as the traders have mentioned, you're saving on the parking elsewhere.
Yes.
So there's more flexibility and less stress. If we charge £25 and you pay another £9 to £10 for parking, that's 35. Realistically, we can charge you 35.
Yeah.
Not that we would.
No.
No, but it does then become prohibitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I propose that we part of the terms and conditions that we allow vehicles on there with certain.
Well, we need to have a closer look.
I think it needs a more detailed discussion. I don't think the vehicle has to be an integral part of the stall, because there's simply not the space to have a stall and then a vehicle parked behind it, is it?
Not going to happen.
And then, what about also for events and stuff? So, for instance, we can put
Well, that's for the event, because if we're hiring this, the whole area, then that's the event for the event.
A classic example would be Paul Barbara Curry, Taste of India, parked him in the corner. His display frontage and cooking was a frontage, but his vehicle was at the same time his storeroom and his ingredients.
Yeah.
And the two worked together. To separate the two made no sense at all. He couldn't trade if he did separate them. He had to go somewhere else. And he has, he's gone down the key. So we've lost him from the centre, but mainly for that reason.
Yeah.
So under those circumstances, common sense says they've got to be together.
Yeah.
But another stall selling, I don't know, clothes, you might say the ease with which you can unload a rail of clothes from the white van and take the white van somewhere else. It's so easy. Why would you need to leave the vehicle there? Common sense needs to be one of the guiding considerations rather than
I think
point of principle.
Yes, expanding on what you're saying, it depends on how many stalls there are.
Yeah.
Because if we have a thriving market, and we actually have to start saying, well, actually, there's too much space taken up with vehicles.
Yeah.
But if you
Well, when
do,
we originally had the market, there was 15 stalls, which is double what we've got now, and 15 vehicles.
Yeah.
So there
Oh,
was
I
plenty of
remember,
room
yes,
for that.
Yeah.
And most of us have vans.
and if you do have to have a vehicle parked off the square, can there be some compensation or something that allows for that parking fee? I'm thinking about wanting to expand the market and attract people in, and if they're not having to pay those sorts of fees in Deal, which is a thriving market at £20, £15, £20 a time, if you've got that and their fee, I mean, there must be some way of talking to DDC and saying these are the 6 vehicles or whatever they are that will regularly park, and they will not be.
So, but going back to the point that the market is owned by Sandwich Town Council, it's for STC now to work out its own market management policies.
Yeah.
So a better example is if Utilities Warehouse wants a 3x3 gazebo and all they're putting there is display boards and people with information, why would you want them to leave their vehicle there?
No, you wouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't want a blanket yes to vehicles and you don't want a blanket no.
No.
But you can't, but with, say for instance, utility warehouse, they do use their vehicles for advertising as well, because they have, some of their vehicles are liveried up to the eyeballs with utility warehouse.
Whereas the World Wildlife Fund would. So sometimes you have charities and pressure groups that come along and all they need is a gazebo.
Yeah.
So don't say yes you can park there because that's our policy, because you'd be creating a different problem. So it really needs thinking through in a more considered way.
This is why we need to work with the two, so that for instance the
So
terms and conditions for market, terms and conditions for normal hiring.
I think what you probably need is a markets management subcommittee group team manager on the council side working with the traders. And don't say it's all the responsibility of the market manager, which isn't, because the market manager is effectively there on behalf of the council.
Yes. With regard to the comment Tracy made about 15 vehicles, 15 stalls, if we've only got like 5 stalls at the moment, there's going to be some time before we're even going to be worrying about too many vehicles. So in the short term, perhaps for a few after 6 months, we should have concession vehicles in the pathway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we have some stalls able to have their vehicle for a reason and others can't, then if I was a market trader, I'd make sure I had a reason. I wouldn't pay 10 quid for parking.
Like some people don't want to unload all their stock, so like for instance I have a lot of stock, so I have to unload all of it in case I sell it, because I can't walk all the way up the road with trays of plants. So I now have to unload everything. And the same as other people, they do keep their stock in their van, and if it rains you can put it away easy. Not mine, because it doesn't matter if it gets wet, but other people's things, they want to be able to get it away quick.
Yeah, I said earlier, I really think this discussion needs to be deferred to a standalone meeting almost of this working group, because one of the things we need to know is, which we haven't found yet, is what as Steve said, STC are responsible for this through the market manager.
Yeah.
But what is that contractual relationship with the market manager. We haven't found a contract. I don't
think
know
you
what
will.
I don't know what the responsibilities are,
Yeah.
etc. So
Well, we did have contracts, we had contracts that we signed, but I don't know.
no,
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't know the
it's
contract
the
with
market
the
manager.
market
manager.
Market manager.
It's employed by Central Town Council, we
Yeah.
can't find it.
so I don't know what her responsibilities are.
There never was one. You won't find it because it doesn't exist. I'm fairly confident that from the time they're taking it off the CRC very abruptly, the market ownership was removed from the CRC and taken back in hand by the council abruptly, in under quite strange circumstances. And we simply said, if you've got any sense at all, you'll retain the services of the market manager. All right then. But no contract was addressed at
About
that.
4 years ago.
When did that happen?
I don't remember. I'm not good at remembering dates.
2018.
I probably remember.
It was about 4 years ago.
When the CIC lost the market.
That was just before COVID, that was
Yeah.
December 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've had, I mean, that gives us
You've
a
got to
date.
start all over. I don't think you'll find a contract between the council and the market manager, and of course there should be one. So the CIC used to run the whole thing and do a profit share and give a good chunk of the profits to Sandwich Town Council, and all the rest of it went to Sandwich events. So 100% of the proceeds of the market went to Sandwich. The Sandwich Town Council, in anticipation of the new square, said we want the whole thing ourselves. Okay, we've got no choice in the matter, off you go. Simply said, to be sensible, why don't you retain the services of the market manager, who was doing a good job in building the market up? Oh, right then, and that's what happened.
And did you have a contract with the market manager?
Can you lay your hands on it?
I don't think it's appropriate to.
Okay.
I don't know if I could, but it's not.
The last time,
It's not appropriate.
I do feel that last time that a official meeting was taking place between Sandwich Town Council and the market manager was September 2021 when I got first elected, because that was one of my first meetings. So that's the last time that the council had a conversation.
Who wants to have a word?
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that I do agree with the gentleman in the corner that there should be something set up, because we've never been asked for our food hygiene certificate, although we have one. We've never been asked for our insurance, which, to be fair, for STC, it does actually need to be held on file for everybody's insurance. It's okay coming to me and saying, where's your insurance when something's happened? I've got it in place, we're insured for up to 5 million, which is fine, but it's no good coming to me after an event and I haven't got it, because there's lots of implications there. So a full review of the market is certainly something that needs to be taking place.
Two things there. We don't know what the duties of the market manager are.
No.
In terms of promotion. The other thing is, I mean, I hate to say it, the fruit and veg stall I really like, but there's no prices displayed. There's no scales, which I think is against the law, isn't it?
He has got things written on pieces of card.
There's very few, very few. I mean, I take potluck, I buy stuff there. It's reasonable, the prices are reasonable, but
It's good stuff as well, actually.
It does sound as though we need some policies.
Yes.
When I was doing the
There
Wednesday
is
and the Saturday market, I had pictures of everybody's
The only-
insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only policy that we have regarding the market is the terms and conditions for the
Yes,
stakeholders. That's all we have.
and things like insurance and
Food hygiene.
food hygiene certificates have to be built into that contract.
We had an environmental health officer come round last week. We got 100%. She was really happy with the things that we got in place. We have extra cool blocks so we can change it over and that sort of thing. So that was fantastic. But that all needs to be reported back to the market committee so that you can keep a close eye on what is going on. Because if we hadn't got those things in place, who's going to look at that? And we've been doing this for a long while, so we know what we're doing. But it does need to be held together.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question? So what you're saying is that you've held a certificate, your own insurances and your certificates, but no one has ever asked you to show, to present that to the market manager.
We were told to bring our insurance with us.
Just bring it with you in
Yeah.
case somebody wanted to check it.
Well, yeah, and if there is an issue and my insurance doesn't cover that issue, who's responsible?
But when they said bring it with you, To,
to keep it with us, but
just to keep, so has no one ever looked at it?
no,
Not ever?
nor my food hygiene certificate, which is again is
Right.
a huge thing. You know, we've got a 5, and we've held a 5 ever since we've been trading. But none of you know that, and
No.
the market trader does, the market manager doesn't know that.
So the market manager comes down every week to check your stalls?
No, we see somebody else.
I'm not saying
Andy.
that's why.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. We see Bill, and Andy is there. Andy is constantly there. Andy knows everything that's going on that market.
Right.
We see Bill who comes along and collects our £10 and pounds off the docket, and that's it.
So you don't see the market?
We've seen the market manager twice.
Since when?
March. We came on the market mid-March.
Can I make a suggestion? So for the next working group meeting, we focus purely on the market.
On the market, yes.
Yeah.
May we come along, please?
Yes, yes,
Of
I'll
course.
invite you, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll speak to you and send you an invitation.
Yeah.
Because I think that if we want this market to succeed when it comes onto the new square in July, we need to get the ball rolling to get it, have it with the relevant paperwork and the legal frameworks as well.
I mean, I think the input of existing traders is
Yes.
critical to that,
Yes.
because presumably you want more traders.
Absolutely.
Even
More
if-
traders is better.
More the better, and how do we make it attractive to get more traders? And market it and promote it and everything else.
Yeah, it definitely needs promoting and advertising.
Yeah.
There's no advertising for it.
There's a few boards around bypass that are pretty tacky.
Yeah, they're fine, aren't they? But the only one is by the white mill now.
One on the Ash Road at the Renangle.
Time seems to be sort of overtaken.
Can I ask you guys a question? So I'm just jumping slightly and I'll come back to the original plan. So it says, what's the current plan for you guys to promote the market and gain additional stallholders? Is there a plan for that to get more stallholders for yourselves, or do you know
Not
if
that
there's?
we know of.
It's not their job.
There was with the manager, and right at the time of the town council decided to take off the CIC, we were working out with the manager to implement what you see to an extent now, Thursday markets, plural, indoors and outdoors working together. So there was a plan, but it has to be delivered by the market manager, not the individual stallholders.
Yeah, but it sounds as though the stallholders don't even know if there is a plan.
Well, no, but there's no reason why they should do it. Well, there is a reason why they should do it, but the point is the responsibility lies between the council and the manager.
And Tracy, one more question. What would you feel about Saturday markets coming back?
I'd love it.
That's competing with deal though.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah, but we have a
They've got
good market.
Mm.
I did it for 7 years, and that was my best day of the week.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. We'll for the next working group will be purely on the market.
Well, caution, in that case there's no point in me being here if we can't talk about events.
rent.
Events.
Oh, events.
No point you being here for the next meeting. Or
If it's a single subject meeting, i.e. markets.
Well, I think we need.
I no longer have an interest in markets.
Yes, we'll have to have a catch up with what is happening at the events. I mean, I presume we'll meet in a week or a fortnight.
Yeah.
Week.
Yeah.
By all means
And
focus
we
on the
need to
market.
know.
By all means focus on the market at the next meeting, but if it's exclusively the market, there's no point in me being here.
Well, we could do markets and events.
Yeah,
I mean, Chair, I think that rather than just having a kind of vague discussion, we need to ask the market manager to produce a report setting out what's happening now, what could happen in the future, how it could be promoted, etc.
Yeah.
And you
But she might have a plan.
know, details of stallholders that we've lost and why they've gone.
Question, who does the market manager report to?
Town clerk.
And do the council know that, and are they happy with that arrangement?
Well, at the moment, the Heritage and Townscape Committee is responsible for the market, and the market manager is actually likely to be co-opted at our Monday meeting.
So you have a
onto
structure
the
in place.
Heritage and Townscape Committee.
So this time now. So losing track of time quickly. So the next ones that I have that are next 6 items on my list are funding and cost implications. So we can speak about them, but we can't agree on anything until they have to go back to full council or to the finance committee. So the additional signage for the VIC. So this, has a decision been made on the position of the VIC? If not, and it says if it isn't moving, would STC consider the cost of extra signs on the square? It's to ask the working group's comments and see, and we can take notes for the report. So, what's people's questions regarding extra signs to be purchased for the VIC?
Yeah, just
if it's staying in place.
For people who don't know, VIC.
So it's a visitors information centre. It's a tourist information centre in the Guildhall as you walk past.
I don't think there's been a decision yet
No.
as to where it should be located.
Right.
But I don't think we can talk about signage at this stage.
Right. Okay.
That decision obviously has to be taken urgently, but at the moment, with the full square rather, in the state that it is, a decision has not been taken.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Cool.
But there might be some cost implications, because at the moment we've got a couple of tatty. I go back to the market and the events. You've got some really tatty looking signs outside of the town, and if you were going to expand your market and your events, you need to be able to have something decent that, if you like, defines what Sandwich is about and what this market is about. So there is a cost implication for signage, I think, that needs to be discussed.
I thought we were talking about signage for the VIC, but I agree about signage for the market.
Yes.
General
Okay.
promotion.
Yeah.
It needs to be improved. Yeah.
So the next one, the number one, is uniform gazebos. So the idea would be to possibly run as Gilmarket would with the gazebos, with the Sandwich Town Council written on them with the crest, bits and pieces to promote the town, use for the market, for events and other things that we would like to use them for. I would like the working group's comments on whether we should look into buying some of these for the town to help boost the market. It will be to boost the market, to make everything more uniform, so it looks a bit more nicer, like it does at Deal Market on Saturday, and to encourage the growth of the market as well, so it looks a bit more presentable. The other thing is it will be to consider is who would be responsible for putting these up and stuff if we bought them. Would it be the caretaker's role? Would it be as part of the market traders' roles? Stuff. So can I have people's thoughts on the uniform gazebos?
And I think this is something we should talk about when we talk about the market, and have more market traders here, because I don't know, I mean, you've got to think about it, whether you would like that.
Would you think it was a wonderful idea?
Oh, you do?
That does look nice when everything's the same.
Okay.
It's tidy, plus there's no issues with gazebos that are unstable or are likely to tear or fly away or something like that. If you've got your own gazebos, you know that they are in full working order, they've been maintained, they're the right weight, they're the right, the right size. So there's all of that as well. At the moment you've got flimsy gazebos, you've got different colours, and it does look a bit tatty, I guess, if you've taken that sort of view.
Where would they be stored in the?
That's another question.
It's not the storage, it's the handling as well. Moving them around, putting them up, taking them down, as we know from events, is a big job.
Yeah.
At the moment, you're showing that task out to the storeholders doing their own, and unless you would somehow allow the storeholders to take care of, custody of a corporate gazebo, and they look after it and put it on and take it down, you're creating a task which might be unmanageable to have a caretaker can't do it. It's physically not possible.
Wouldn't they be useful for events for yourself?
Well, potentially yes, but we have a health and safety guidance policy that says it's a 4-man job to put up gazebos and take them down again.
What clearly depends on the weight and the size of the gazebo,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, if they're not robust enough to stand strong winds, they don't last a season.
Of course not, no.
But if they're robust enough, strong enough, they're quite heavy, and it's not a one-man job to carry them around.
But then you,
Yes, I
but then
wondered
you
if
go
we
highlight
could-
the issue of the fact that they're not, the ones that we're using on the market may not be stable enough to use in the Guildhall Square anyway. We have had an issue on the market with a gazebo blown away, so you've just highlighted one of the potential problems.
I think it would be very helpful if we could find out from Deal, who are already using uniform gazebos, what the costs are, how they organise it,
I have
who
approached
puts them up and down.
the organisers of that, but I've had no response.
Okay.
I can tell you historically the idea came from an individual councillor who would see it as being the job of a professional company to make market furniture, gazebos and street furniture corporate, and that somehow by appointing a professional company they would make the market bigger and more profitable and could afford to do those things. That was the vision. It was never ever thought through how caretakers or volunteers would do that job. And in my own view it's just not manageable.
Well, try again with Deal,
Yeah, I will.
because they're doing it,
Yeah.
and everybody says it's working. And let's see what the implications are and the management implications.
And I'm just looking at the Faversham market, which is also has uniform gazebos. So again, I think the market manager could approach both Deal and Faversham, just to see how they do it, how it works, where they're stored, what the costings are, you know, what the benefits or disbenefits are.
The next question for this is the tables and chairs, so we could link these two together, to be fair, as well.
Tables and chairs.
Regarding tables and uniform tables and chairs for the Guildhall as well.
That was muted, as were the gazebos, and when there was original consultation over the development of the square, that they should have, everything should be formalised for tables and chairs, and the gazebos came up at the same time. But at that point, my understanding was that it was something that DDC had put into their costs for producing once the square was finished. So
that's not my understanding. The new vision for Sandwich Plan was a vision. And the vision was that the space between the trees and the buildings was caficulture space.
Yes.
Would look different, probably a different material. And the vision was that perhaps at some time all those three buildings, the Sandwich Shop, Age Concern and Costa, would all eventually become caficulture.
Yeah.
And you could then see a strip down there of a caficulture part of the new square. At the moment, there is no business plan moving towards that. And I haven't the faintest idea what Costa's views would be on having more tables and chairs outside and being told they have to be corporate. Again, who buys them, who puts them out, who takes them away. I've no knowledge at all of Age Concern moving in that direction. And I do know about the sandwich shop situation. But it was all a vision. It was visionary. There weren't any practical plans to support it.
Okay.
I spoke with the manager at Costa just to ask them if they wanted to come along. They didn't know anything about any potential changes with tables and chairs, and they explained that they've got a licence for the ones that they have where they are, and that they do need to have them in their own corporate style, because that is what's approved through their own corporation. They can't change it, is what they were saying. They can't change the style. There we go.
We spoke a bit about higher fees, we won't go back into it again, we'll talk about that in the next meeting regarding the market and stuff. So the next one, we've done the one up, that one as well. So long-term vision for Sandwich. Okay.
Sorry, Dean, can I just ask, do we know whether there's any data on how much the electricity costs? Because it's, according to the system here, or the leaflet, sorry, the agreement, traders would be charged £1 per day for electricity. So I don't know when that was put in, whether that's a reasonable amount.
Well, they were paying £5 though.
Sorry?
They were paying £5.
Were you?
Yeah.
So it's
that's what I had to pay.
£5 per, it says sorry, £5. £1 per hour, but you're there 5 hours on the
Yeah,
phone.
so that's what they
So
were
you're
paying
paying,
£5.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
£5 a day.
okay. So that's something, how do we measure what sort of a reasonable amount to be charged?
I'm not sure how it can be measured because the electrics that we use for the lights, we asked them about how much does it cost, and they said it all goes into one pot, so it doesn't.
Oh, there's no meter that we could. Okay.
There's no one at the moment that uses electricity anyway.
No, it's not. No. So.
Okay.
So the last thing on it's the long-term vision and how the market should be managed and by whom. So this follows on from item 12 on the agenda about the market management. Should this be put out to tender? Should a new STC business manager stroke project manager be appointed? And should this be included in his or her brief along with promoting events and hires for the Guildhall, weddings, parties, markets, visitor centre, etc. Time is now critical, so we need to speak about this, see what people think about it, and if we can get the ball rolling as soon as possible. I know there's staff restructuring going, so I don't know whether you can shed any light on that, Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to appoint a permanent town clerk shortly. Once that happens, that person clearly has to be involved in the discussion about how the staffing should be structured.
Yeah.
There have been various ideas floating around. One is to have a property manager, look after all the assets that we own. Various ideas, but I think the new town clerk has to be, party to that, because we can't impose a structure on a new person who's meant to lead the officer group.
I also think that all the staff should be involved in the discussion about restructuring. So, I mean, it will take some time, and it will be lumpy and bumpy and working through, because individual staff will have individual views about their own workload and all the rest. So it will take time, but clearly we do need to. Well, we're going to be looking at the management of the market at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think that's absolutely critical. I mean, it will take time to do what you've got to do. I think everyone understands that, but if the market is going to really survive and then thrive, those decisions about is the current setup correct, or should it be revisited? I mean, I don't know if the market manager doesn't actually have a contract. We don't even know whether what her understanding is about how long she's in place, what she should be doing. But it does beg a sort of a really urgent discussion, doesn't it, about how that market can be expanded? Because if we're going to have the summer now, we really need to be getting on top of how many more stalls can we get in, who's going to do that, what is the plan?
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of the restructuring, the current arrangement needs to be clarified.
Yes.
And we need to make sure that we know what the duties of the current market manager are, and that we have a launch sometime in July, hopefully, and a revamp and a brass band and a launch and a promotion and everything else.
Ambitious.
I mean, can I just ask a question to the committee and to the market traders as well? What would you feel about putting the market out for tender or keeping it within STC?
That's STC's market, so STC should manage it. That's
I think we do have to talk about that at the next meeting.
Because if liabilities come into that consideration.
Okay.
But it has a lot of potential. It could be a lot better.
Absolutely. It could be made really, really good. No.
Yes.
Cool. Excellent.
I think
So
policies that are put in place put it in reverse gear at one stage, but it was going forward.
So that comes down to my points in the agenda. Is there any other questions? Any other business? Is there anyone like to point out anything just quickly? Anything? Anyone?
I have.
So, yes,
Yeah,
Councillor.
sorry to reverse back to the Guildhall forecourt project. Because what tends to happen at the end of any major project, and it's a major project for Sandwich, is to sort of leave it all behind and get on with business as usual. And that is, you know, sort of the appetite that tends to happen. But one thing that's really been missing from all of this discussion at the start is around lessons learned. Visibly to the residents of Sandwich, the project has thrown up a number of failures. Okay? There may be some successes underneath the surface, but they're not known. But we can all reel off the bus stop, the sets, discussions, the bus shelter that's only just arrived is causing an immense amount of displeasure with a number of people. So it's a DDC project, but we, all of us here, are major stakeholders in this.
Yeah.
We should at least be demanding a lessons learned event with DDC, or we should be running one ourselves, because this is a project that next time we can pick up the lessons learned, the good things and the bad things, and use those, be it us or be it somebody else, to make sure some of the, particularly around the stakeholder management of this, do not get repeated. It's been a failure from a resident's perspective in terms of knowing what's happening. And there may be really good reasons why the original plans, the original vision changed along the way, but I don't know. And I don't think anybody else does. So we have to demand a lessons learned with a project manager that is a complete, honest review of what happened. And that gets documented, not just a meeting, gets documented as a report that is then filed for the next major project for Sandwich.
That's a while.
I completely agree with that, and I think one of the key things with this is we have not been treated as an equal partner. And
But
that,
we have to carry a debt.
yeah, exactly, for years and years. And I think the wash-up session, if whatever you call it, we need to involve not just the project manager, but the director and the relevant cabinet member, and make sure that this never happens again.
Great.
I think I just was wondering about the square this afternoon, enjoying the space, because it's just been opened up, and I met this Sandwich resident, and he said, "This is a scandal." And I said, "So what?" And he said, "Oh, you know, if I had a patio laid in my garden, it wouldn't have taken 6 weeks, it would have taken 3 days." He said, "I know this is a bigger space, but it's just taken too long," and I think he's got a point, actually.
And he may or may not have a point, Claire, of course. But the fact is, if you don't do an evidence-based review, you will have these, it will become a story in time that will be repeated from parents to children about the forecourt and the missing sets and the bus stop that never got moved and all of that.
Yes, and the people who were, I mean, again, last night I walked out of Guildhall after a meeting, the side door. A bus was parked at bus stand B, and I saw, I say an elderly lady, I'm an elderly lady myself, but she was in a car. She came round to turn left into the cattle market, the continuation of the cattle market. She came round the bus, came into the right-hand lane. There was a car coming towards her. I mean, it's an accident waiting to happen. And fortunately, there wasn't an accident. But, I mean, it's just so dangerous.
That's a separate, that's a separate thing that we're dealing with. So
Yes, and that's right, Dean. But the lessons learned is really about stakeholder management. It's about what didn't go well, and that is one aspect that definitely didn't go well. We really don't know yet about the infrastructural work, how well that's gone, because we're not yet we have the report in front of us. But all this needs to feed into a very clear documented report.
But having said all that, visually it looks
stunning. It looks lovely.
It does.
Yes, don't disagree.
Just an update. So
the test will be in
the trees will be in within the next 2 weeks.
They need watering. Who's going to water them?
So it's got an irrigation system built in.
It's the contract.
There's an irrigation system built
It's
in.
an automatic
Yes.
irrigation.
Subterranean, quite a bit of infrastructure below the trees.
I did see that, but I thought somebody would still have manually to water.
No, it's all, yeah.
Although, the guys this afternoon said that although they would like to have those trees in, they're a bit concerned about how much dust and so on will be created when they lay the ancient highway, and it may not be the ideal thing to get the trees in and then to lay the ancient
Are
highway.
you telling me the ancient highway isn't part of the core project? Is that going to come later?
Well, they have to do
It is
this
part
bit
of the
first
core
before they do that
project.
bit.
It is part of the core
Yeah,
project.
but what's going to be finished by in a few weeks' time?
Well, I think Councillor Marie's just said that the trees should be up within 2 weeks, but the trees and the ancient highway, I'm not convinced that the ancient highway is going to be complete within 3 weeks.
It's an absolute scandal that the sandwich shop doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Literally on its own
I
doorstep.
agree.
It's killed our business.
Yeah.
Our customers can't sit and enjoy coffee, they've all gone somewhere else. And the project manager's response about compensation is raise a complaint. No councillor would say, no, you don't raise a complaint. Project manager says raise a complaint. Complaint say no, it's not a complaint until the department is failed to deal with it, deal with the department. Where's the process? It's an absolute scandal.
And also, of course, while the issue about the bus stop is not on the agenda, it is, in a way, it is all wrapped up with the completion of Guildhall, the Guildhall Square, because if the guys finish and go, then and if perchance some changes are made, then there's an extra cost implication, and there's more building work to be done. So.
Yeah, so it is part of the work, it is part of the Guildhall forecourt, however, it is a separate issue because it's a safety issue, and I do agree myself, Councillor Wells, Councillor Morehouse are working to hopefully resolve it, so yeah. Hopefully. There's always hope, Councillor. I'm going to try. Is there anything else in the traders before I close it?
Can I just ask you something? Sorry, one thing that one of the market traders were talking about when they need to go and use the loo, especially once they're on the Guildhall forecourt, because they used to be able to have the key of the caretaker, but even if someone like Andy had a key, that they could then use the loo in the Guildhall rather than have to leave their stools, their money and so on and go across to the toilets. It would be helpful. So I think if that can be just discussed or raised, because it is a valid point.
So Dean, sorry Dean, before we finish, have you agreed as a group, lessons learned is something that
Yes,
absolutely,
and it will be
yes.
documented within the minutes? Thank you. Yes.
So I think, I hope it's been minuted that we've given delegated authority to Councillor Green to meet with the project manager Monday or Tuesday.
I've got lots of different
And
notes.
so that needs to happen today or over the weekend.
Yeah, it does.
Also, I think we should be meeting weekly now for the next few weeks. Maybe the market discussion could be not next week, but in the following week. With a
I have to give the clear days. So
priority is the events, isn't it?
Well, I need to go now because I find out it doesn't stop ringing. Tomorrow's a nightmare and God knows what's going to happen. So let's keep our fingers crossed we don't have any incidents. It's not at all desirable what we're trying to achieve. Although we're trying to achieve it.
Can we ask him? Right, so
what I'll do is I'll close the meeting and I'll get back to you in the next 24 hours regarding the date for the next
Is
one.
that okay?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the date.
Yeah,
so
I'll put it out in an email, and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck, Steve.